we'll shift our focus to an issue that has been a conversation. We just talked about it. People have been complaining, lamenting about this particular issue. Well, JAMB don't jam people. And I'll tell you this, after the break, we'll probe the mass failures of JAMB. Stay tuned.
I agree with the person who said the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. The opposite of art is indifference. The opposite of truth, of faith, is indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, but indifference. By not being indifferent to JAMB, we are grateful. Today marks a moment we shall not soon forget. A day that should have been filled with celebration for what was, until recently, regarded as our most successful UTM exercise. Regrettably, this joy has been overshadowed by an easily avoidable error by one or two persons. Without equivocation, there has been a lot of hoopla since the result of 2025 UTME were released last Friday, 9th May. Despite the fact that JAMB is a responsive organization, the unusual level of public concern and loud complaints has prompted us to do an immediate audit or review of what happened, which we ordinarily would have done in June. I want to make it clear that our review and investigation revealed that there are grounds for the complaints about our 2025 UTME result, and the press conference is convened with a view to unveiling the bitter truths of our findings openly and objectively. Quality assurance is cardinal to the operation of JAMB. I can assure you that we scale all heights, fathom all depths, and traverse all horizons to ascertain that quality assurance mechanism permeates all our operations from the takeoff point to the finish line. We burn the midnight oil and we set our standards high. This is why we have guidelines, checklists, and protocols guiding our activities, right from the time of registration to the point of monitoring and supervision to the processing of results. As we know, we cannot clap with our sole hand as a single entity. We have several committees in place that are part of our quality assurance system. There are peace monitors of 41 women of substance who are all former principal officers of Nigerian universities. We have the chief external examiners for every state who are vice chancellors, rectors, and provosts themselves. In each state, we also have chief technical advisor, a reputable professor who is an expert in computing and cyber security. We have peace monitors, civil society group, equal opportunity, the general monitors, high power opinion leaders, and technical advisors group, and virtues vanguard. All of these groups play a critical role and complement our staff in ensuring quality and troubleshooting challenges. Furthermore, we also have an in-house consultant and expert in software development and cybersecurity. Besides, we have introduced mock examinations since 2017 as primarily a quality assurance measure to test our system and intervene where necessary prior to the time of our examination. Knowing the nature of technology, our technical officers annually take tests before the successful ones are deployed to the field so that no point will incompetence set in. All our examination officials are profiled with their needs to ensure efficiency and accountability. We also have a robust system of in-house electronic testing experts led by a renowned professor of software engineering. We deploy our system to the use of high-profile organizations within and outside Nigeria as part of the broader strategy of ensuring that everything works well when we need it to work.
Welcome back. It is still Morning Express, the weekend edition on ADBN TV. And yes, so much talk about JAMB. And like I had said earlier, JAMB, don't jam. And you know, Nigerians, we don't keep quiet when it has to do with the future of young Nigerians, the future of people, and even issues that concern the generality of the common man. And JAMB is one of that aspect of education. To get into any university or any tertiary institution, it has to go through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. And this year, there has been something spectacular, and that has been the outcry of so many JAMBites, as we usually call them. So many JAMBites had complained about the glitches in this year's JAMB. That some had complained about the time which the exam had started, some complained about internet, some complained about computer issues here and there. And for the first time in a very, very long time, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board came forward to accept the blame and decided that there will be a receipt of exams. And of course, some had already started having a receipt yesterday. And questions as to why cry on national television when you knew the problem? And is this political? Does this have any political undertone? Does this have anything to do with the reflecting the society, the country as it stands? Questions as to, we've had previous cases of glitches in the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. We've had issues with the exams. But what has been done so far? Or is this as a result of the public outcry? Well, all of these will be answered on the program today as we have an expert, a political science analyst, to talk about the issue of Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. I'm talking about Mr. Jude Onwuhanze. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. And let me take the first blow, and it's direct. Are you one of those who are suggesting that we should commend, because one of the papers had captured that rather than condemn Oloyede, we should rather be commending him for taking up the bold step? Are you one of those who share in that opinion?
I am neither there nor there.
Oh, okay.
My take is that at what point did he discover that there was a problem? Because the JAMB was taken few days, if not up to a week, before the results started coming out. And he never discovered that there was a glitch until when people started shouting. So when you look at it that way, that will help us to dig further to really find out at what point did JAMB discover there was problem in the examination as they took it. My personal observation and the discovery was that the Educare Tech, founded by somebody, I've forgotten the name, actually went to him after studying the trend of what happened. It was that very foundation that discovered that something was wrong. And they went to him and present proof of what their discovery was all about. You could equally remember that sometime last week, Chidoka, former road safety corps marshal, went equally on his own to find out what is wrong with the type of result that came out this year. That coincided with that of Educare, who came with the proofs of what they discovered. It was then the prof actually instituted a probe into what happened and came out with the same result Educare presented to him. So my problem is this: they have accepted the result at the JAMB headquarters, and we are releasing the result until some people say, no, there is something wrong. It was in the process of discovering what is wrong that the press conference came to be. So that very accolade of accepting what is wrong should go to Educare, not to JAMB.
Okay, let me take a brief analysis of issues of mass failure in Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board. And in the year 2021, it was recorded that only 14% passed the UTME exams, representing
That was in 2021.
That was in 2021, representing 5,970,984 students, failing woefully out of 6,944,368 applicants. Now, that was in 2021. That would also take us to 2024, just last year. Now, last year it's recorded that only that a whooping 76% of candidates couldn't score up to 50% of the marks. 76%, and this year is recorded that 75.5% failed the examination. So it means that
there's a history.
Yeah, there's a
history
of failure in joint admissions and matriculation board. But then, are we attributing this to the technical glitches, or this is actually a matter of concern for the educational sector?
Before the JAMB came out with the receipt for some people, I personally have concluded that it is part of the rot in the system of our educational sector. But a situation where you discover that the same measure that we're giving some people in some part of Nigeria, we are not giving to some other people. You have to argue that that may be the reason why things were not where it should be. So JAMB asking people to receipt. There are many people that will not be happy to receive the exam because there is a young man that's scored 300. And he's among the people that is going to receipt. He's crying because he never knows what he's going to see after receiving the exam. So these are the issues. The problem we have this year is this. Had it been that after all the check, there was nothing wrong with the system, we will have just regarded it as one of the things that used to happen.
Yes.
One of the rot in the educational system. It is a situation where you begin to talk to the youth, take your book serious, never do what you have been doing before. It will not favor you again. But when we discover this problem, everybody now is saying this may likely be the reason, because you have more than, I think, 1/6 of the people that wrote the exam being shot out of the door. Lagos zone and Southeastern zone. Why these two zones were selected and locked out of the system, where you have modeling of question paper and results that will likely give them what is not their scores. This is where the problem lies. Somebody described it to be that you ask somebody to shut a door. He didn't shut that door. He shut 9 and left 1 open. You have to tell somebody to make sure the door is shut. He went there and still left the same door open. You send another person, he went there and still left the same door open. And the conclusion is that it is deliberate. That was how some people concluded. It is what? Deliberate. Because the first person, the second, the 10th, none of them detected the fact that this door has not been shut. So, though we are not here now to analyze who to be blamed, the blame goes to JAMB.
Now, Dr. Truth, if you say the blame goes to JAMB, the question I'd like to ask is, from the history of what Jennifer has read, we've seen that we've had these issues. There hasn't been a time when people sat for JAMB without complaining of these glitches that we are also hearing about. You think JAMB does not pay attention to these complaints, or JAMB does not post-mortem, as I had asked that question earlier?
Some of the glitches we witness from time to time, some may not directly come from JAMB, from the national headquarters. Some of them may be glitches based on the center. It has happened to some people. The center where they will be taking the exam, they will be having problems. Sometimes the generator will run down in the midst of the exams. It has happened. And there is nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the generator can come up again. And JAMB doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah, somebody's supposed to file a report.
Yes, that is the thing. So the people that JAMB place in such center are the people that should file the results. But when JAMB will look at it, they will say, okay, 10 minutes, 5 minutes will not make a lot of meaning for anybody writing exam. But the truth is that 10 minutes can destabilize a child. It can keep him off memory. It can cause a lot of tension within him that will make him to lose focus of the exam. This is a glitch that JAMB may not report to anybody. This happens every time. It happens everywhere. I have witnessed it once when my son was writing somewhere here in Akwa Ibom State. The whole thing went off. We waited about 15-20 minutes before they activate the generator. So these are the issues. But overall, I keep telling people, your score in JAMB may not be most of the time a reflection of your knowledge. Most of the time.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Why I say so is that even in the ordinary interview we used to attend, sometimes you see the bright taste of the children or the youth going for interview. During the interview, he will not be able to express himself. But if you happen to give him the opportunity, you may discover that he will do the job better than those who do better in the interview. And at the same time, will you say because of that you will not take JAMB? No, because JAMB is a medium of selection, which you cannot bypass. At the same level, you still see people coming out with the type of result that represent their intelligence. At the same time, you see people coming up with the result that represent their intelligence. So these are the issues you cannot sit down to say, let's do this or let's do that. But the question I want to ask is that, in developed world, do they have anything similar like JAMB?
Okay, that's a good
Do they
question.
have it?
Because
If
I
they
think
don't, why do we
the
have
West
it?
African Examination Council already has a format which is supposed to prepare the children for the next stage of education, which is tertiary institutions. And so questions, there has been times where questions has arise to, why do we still have JAMB?
Yeah,
because if
You will still go to the schools and do another test,
because if
another exam.
Because if you want to study overseas, what they will ask you is your WAEC result, not JAMB result. That's what they will ask you. Is your WAEC result, not JAMB result. I think the problem we have in Nigeria is we refuse to solve a problem. Instead of solving the problem, we create another problem. JAMB in Nigeria is a medium of selection of people that should go to university and those that should not go. This is just the function of JAMB in Nigeria, which is supposed not to be so, because every child has the right to aspire to go to the university or not to go to the university, or to learn a trade by acquiring skills. But because we don't have the university opportunities for every child, so the little we have to constrict them into selection method using JAMB to shift people out, while some people will go in. This is the function of JAMB in Nigeria. Because if we have the opportunity to absorb all our youth into the system, there will be no need for JAMB. You will rather use their WAEC examination results to appropriate them in any way they want to reach. This is the problem we have.
Does this particular mass failure, does it have any implication on the educational system?
Yes, it has so much implication. But my problem is that some of the implication we analyze it to have. When you see our boys, our youths, our men and women going out of this nation to foreign nation, they will go there and look up face to face with the foreigners and even beat them in their field. So you begin to wonder what is actually wrong with us. Though we have so many things going wrong in our educational sector, but our men have been doing very, very great anywhere you see them. Even here in Nigeria, some of them will think that they are not doing very well. If they happen to go out of this place, they will do better than we expected. So the rot in the system has been there, most especially those who depend on sorting to see themselves up.
You use the term rot.
Yeah.
I was reading a piece recently as a result of this mass failures, and an expert wrote that is our approach to education. Is it a problem of rot or approach to education?
What is the difference between the approach and the rot? That is what we need to analyze now.
You spoke of how it is in other climes, and you've also, differentiated JAMB from what it is in other climes.
Yeah.
Because in other climes, they just require your WAEC.
Yeah.
You go to the institution itself, you take your test, you pass whatever exams they set for you there, you're qualified to be admitted. Now, that's why I said, is it a problem of rot or our approach to education as a country?
The approach to education most of the time lead us to the rot we are talking about. Let me give an example. When I study comparative education, you discover that in the developed world, after the primary education, you have secondary education. Between secondary education and university education, you have skill acquisition period. In that period of skill acquisition, what skill are they learning? Bricklaying skill, electrical wiring skill,
IT,
plumbing, and the rest of them. This same skill you are talking about, I told my students in class one day, how many of you we want to learn this skill and live with it and make money out of it? They say, except in foreign land. Are you getting me? They will be comfortably doing it in foreign land, but they cannot do it here in Nigeria. That is where the approach becomes a problem. They can comfortably be a bricklayer in foreign lands after their university education. But here in Nigeria, they look at it as a work for the non-educated. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Whereas in the foreign land we are talking about, they train their youths to acquire those skills and make use of those skills to fend for themselves. And our people will travel from here to go and have the opportunity to work in that system. But here in Nigeria, they will not work it. Because of what? Because of the way we have labeled education. That is where the approach comes from. As a result of that, everybody wants to have university education. If you don't have it, you are nobody.
No, if your analysis is anything to go by, don't you think over the years, with the many issues of mass failures of not just even JAMB, even WAEC, we've had issues too, don't you think we should have, the leadership should have sat down, by extension the Ministry of Education, to come up with another approach? If we have been doing this for, say, 20 years, and this has always been the outcome eventually, isn't it about time we change our approach to education?
That is what it should be, because our approach to education has been, that is rote memory. Reading, reading, reading.
Reading, memorizing,
And other things. Answering questions and the ability to pass with good grades. But we don't know anything that practical of it is where we're having problem. And because of this problem, excuse me, a situation where you see a young man that is gifted in electrical business, when he finish university, he will be looking where to go and do a job that he will be paid monthly, instead of starting up a business of his own, to use that knowledge he has acquired to do something, and in the process of doing that, employ others to work after him. He doesn't have the confidence in him that he will succeed in doing that. Most of the times, the problem is equally the problem of the economy, because when you are working under the economy, you cannot predict. It's another problem. But if you can predict the economy, you know where the economy is going, you know where it's coming from, know how to strategize yourself. But the situation in Nigeria today, you cannot predict our economy. It becomes difficult for you to lay hold on money to start a business. But over there, if you have a good idea of business, you can easily lay hold on money and start the business. But here in Nigeria, it's not like that. So this is another problem we have. The problem of education is multifaceted. It's not one way issue.
Let's look at that aspect now. Issue of funding for career education, and it takes me to NELFund. You think NELFund should maybe deviate, not deviate per se, look at funding students in tertiary institutions and also those with the necessary skills to acquire those equipment and also fund their informal education?
That is actually what you should look into. As it is today, I think about a month ago, the system shut down. I don't know whether they are up by now because of one glitch or another. that is going on. Some people have started laying some allegation against the operator of NEFON. I don't know how true those ones are for now, but the truth there is this. If you pay just the school fee of students, you don't take care of their feeding, you don't take care of their house allowance, you have done your best. That may likely be about 40% of their need in school. It has gone a long way to help parents taking care of their wards in the school, but that is not enough. We must look into a situation whereby students will come to the university, come out of the university, and the school will look into how to establish them.
Dr. Jude, let's come back to you. I know Jennifer was asking some questions, so I'll just let her carry on, evolve her thoughts, and then we'll come back and look at some areas
that was
of
on
concern.
the aspect of funding for formal education and informal education. Do you think we've given so much attention, especially to the informal education? Even while we advocate for entrepreneurs, we advocate for locally made products, we advocate for a shift from just white-collar jobs. Are we paying attention to it?
I will conclude that by saying no attention has been paid for some of the things that should be given attention. For instance, when you talk about funding in the university, the federal government seems to think that funding has to do with paying the salary of staffs, and that is all about funding in the university system. Because if you go closer to the university administrators, they will let you know that they find it difficult to pay the electricity they are using in the school. They find it difficult to get stationaries. You will go to a department, the HOD will not have a photocopy machine. Even when the photocopy machine is there, there will be no paper to photocopy something, as little as that. Then you talk about some discoveries in some universities where some staffs discover some of the things that will help to enhance the life in the society. Nobody cares to fund those things to commercialize them, because everything we are using here today, we are discovered by somebody, and it was funded to the level of commercialization so that people can be able to make use of it. But in the situation we have in Nigeria today, you don't see that type of funding, because the university themselves are struggling to survive, let alone funding what somebody discovered. But it is the place of Ministry of Education to see how some of those things can be commercialized to the use of the people before you'll be able to encourage others to come up with some invention or another. Every year, people are writing projects, doing their thesis, coming out with an idea, but those ideas die in the shell. Yeah.
Now, Dr. Jude, let us come back to JAMB in itself. I want us to probe certain very important aspects. First off, I'd like for us to look at the issue of mass failures. Because we've had it in JAMB, we've had it in WAEC, and all these
even
exams.
missing results.
Exactly. So, does this reflect the falling standard of our education in any way?
Yeah, it has reflected that so much, because when you talk about falling standard of education, you are looking at the ability of a student to owe what he wrote in exam hall. How many of those students will actually say, actually, this is what I have been able to do? And that was why I gave kudos to JAMB. Since they started CBT, they have eliminated to a large extent the issue of corruption in examination, as has to do with JAMB. To the best of my knowledge, they have done well in that aspect. But when you talk about the manual writing, like other exams that children write as they are going on now, the rot in the system is seen in a situation where centers are prepared. The student will be called, some people will collect money from students, and when the invigilators comes, the invigilator will be giving the money as a cola. When they receive the money as a cola, what do you expect from the invigilators? Will they be able to do their job thoroughly? I don't think they will be able to do their job. At the end of the day, you see people having A all through in all the exams, but coming to JAMB, the A will not reflect in what they have in the other area of their life. You meet them one-on-one to express themselves, you will discover that the A seems to be a bot somewhere.
Okay. Well, but I'll still take you up on that issue of corruption. Because this experience is not even because there are some persons who would say it's not tangible. This was a personal experience. When I wrote JAMB, I was advised to go with money. Whether I have any, what do they call it, bullet or not, I should go with money. Yeah, I had thoughts in my young head, why?
You've already prepared yourself.
Yeah, I've already prepared myself. And then we used to have pencils, you tick your A's and B's. I got to the center and the official, we started exams. The official walked in. I didn't notice what was happening because I was busy writing. And then she asked me to stand. I stood, she searched me, found nothing, but asked me to keep standing. So I stood and I was confused, like what's going on? The person behind now tapped me and told me, hand over now. I said, hand over what? I'm not with anything. Now did this. So that's
I'm not sure the camera captured that.
Okay,
could you do it?
And that's when I brought out 1,000 naira and gave to her, and she asked me to sit. That was how I wrote exams. Now, this is one out of many. We can't talk of, we've also heard of, even with the CBT, as you mentioned, that the CBT has eliminated, I may not say completely eliminated, because we hear of stories of some of the centers where computers already have pre-answered questions and they're already set. So sometimes...
And you pay more for such centers.
You pay more for such centers. And sometimes you get to those centers and while you're there, some machineries, they call them, come in and answer the questions for you. So I may not say completely eliminated, but how can we solve this issue? Because it's eaten deep that we get to schools, even for the West African examinations, we get to schools and schools are already canvassing for students to make payment for their WAEC. And some parents even take a step further, go to the school, I need my child to pass this exam in one sitting. I need them to have so and so scores in one sitting. What does it require of me? So these things are happening. We can't turn a blind eye and say they are not. We see these things happening. How can we put an end to it?
To put an end to it has to be a collaborative effort of the parents, the school system, and the government body that supervise those systems. Because a situation where a child knows that his or her parents have been able to do everything to make sure he has a soft landing, that child will go to sleep knowing that the parents are there to do everything to him. But for a parent that does so, you are killing those children. But when you allow them to fight out and do something by themselves, knowing that if they don't do it, nobody will do it for them, that is when they will wake up and do the right thing. So leaving it for government alone will not solve our problem. Parents must start to do the right thing by allowing their children to study, give them all what they need to study with. I know that there are people, we say that in philosophy, we say that education is a quality of education. But in actual say, there is nothing like a quality of education. There are those that are advantage over others. Yeah. Those that are disadvantaged. What is the government doing to help those disadvantaged stage? There is nothing.
Well, isn't that the reason why we have varying cutoff marks? Because we know that in the north, you don't get the same cutoff mark with what you have in the south.
That is the problem. So government has not done anything. The issue of catchment area doesn't solve the problem.
Should we encourage such? Because while a medical doctor from the north, a medical doctor from any part of the country, there is no difference. You treat patients. So should we encourage such in the country?
We shouldn't. We shouldn't. We should rather encourage hard work. And that is the only way a nation developed. If you don't encourage hard work, you are encouraging mediocre, and that will lead to destruction. And that is where we have found ourselves today. Because a situation where you see somebody burning the night candle, doing everything, at the end of the day, you kept him aside and picked somebody that has nothing to offer. That is another way of bringing down the morale of our people.
Okay, Dr. Jude, let us look at the issue of these technical issues. We've been able to establish that the technical glitch that Professor Isiaq Oluyede, the JAMB registrar, is admitting to it's not peculiar to 2025. We have had technical glitches over the years, even with the different JAMBs that people have written, with a level of failures as well. Now, let us look at the issue of supervision. You think JAMB is doing enough to be thorough about the centers where people write exam?
Well, like I said earlier, JAMB has done a great job the last 5-7 years, but that doesn't mean that we have arrived. They have done a very good job. What happened in 2025 has a great difference from the glitches we used to experience before now. You are talking about a whole 2 zone out of about 10 or 12 you have completely shut up, completely out of the system. This is not a glitch. It is a human error. It is a human error. It is different from the rest where you pick 1, 2, 3 in different parts of Nigeria and say, okay, this set of people, you will do this, you will do it. Or sometimes you penalize the centers. This is different from what we used to do. This another problem altogether we have never witnessed since the beginning of CBT. And like I said earlier, JAMB didn't notice this until somebody drew their attention, until parents decided to take them to court, because they discovered that there is something wrong in the system. It's not what you told or that you are doing. There is a shuffling that didn't work out well. It was then they started to investigate and discover that something went wrong in Lagos and South East Zone. It has never been like this the past 5 years.
Yeah, but when I ask this question, I'm asking this question because every year there's something peculiar about every year. If you investigate the different years of failures, there is always one problem identified. In this year, they're attaching it to technical glitches. Now, the reason I'm asking this question is supervision. Somebody is saddled, or departments in JAMB are saddled with the responsibility of verifying centers that can do or host students for the exams. You verify the centers on account of power, systems, internet provisions. So when I ask this question of supervision, you think JAMB is doing enough to supervise the people it sends to the field, who comes back to them to tell them, yes, the centers chosen are ready and fit for the exams?
I think Ike is trying to be nice. Let me put it out clearly. There are speculations that these supervisors go to the centers and rather than do their job as it should, they collect some sums or
they collect appreciations
that stop them from saying what it should be. And there are also some speculations that even to get into the position of a supervisor, some people make payment. They sought.
You sought. It's like a place where you make money. So they pay money because they know they'll get money.
Yeah, I want to agree with you that JAMB, to some extent, some of the places we have as centers supposed not to be because of the situation of their materials. But in every aspect of Nigeria have equally crept into JAMB system, whereby some people will compromise standards just to make sure that the place is accommodated. And in the compromise of the standard, something will give and take, and a report will be written. The chairman of JAMB will not know everything. He's there receiving reports from across Nigeria, and the report that was on his table is what is taken based on the report, having trusted the people in the field to do the right thing. So I want to say that sometimes the supervisors are compromised by allowing some centers to take exams when they are not ready to take the exams. These things happen.
Let's talk about technical expertise. JAMB is supposed to have a department. While I was watching
I think we can even play it.
Yeah, I think for a moment we'll just take a break and listen once again to this particular piece here, and then we can speak on specific areas which, of course, we have questions. Let's take a moment and listen.
I agree with the person who said The opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. The opposite of art is indifference. The opposite of truth, of faith, is indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, but indifference. By not being indifferent to JAMB, we are grateful. Today marks a moment we shall not soon forget. A day that should have been filled with celebration for what was, until recently, regarded as our most successful UTM exercise. Regrettably, this joy has been overshadowed by an easily avoidable error by one or two persons. Without equivocation, there has been a lot of hoopla since the result of 2025 UTME were released last Friday, 9th May. Despite the fact that JAMB is a responsive organization, the unusual level of public concern and loud complaints has prompted us to do an immediate audit or review of what happened, which we ordinarily would have done in June. I want to make it clear that our review and investigation revealed that there are grounds for the complaints about our 2025 UTME result, and the press conference is convened with a view to unveiling the bitter truths of our findings openly and objectively. Quality assurance is cardinal to the operation of JAMB. I can assure you that we scale all heights, fathom all depths, and traverse all horizons to ascertain that quality assurance mechanism permeates all our operations from the takeoff point to the finish line. We burn the midnight oil and we set our standards high. This is why we have guidelines, checklists, and protocols guiding our activities. Right from
Hold that for a moment there. We'll begin to speak to certain aspects of what he spoke about in that particular press conference.
Audit review.
Audit, review, quality assurance. Let us talk about audit, review. I've spoken about the different years, the history where we've had failures. He spoke about auditing. He spoke about review. You think JAMB does enough of this auditing and review with a view to ensuring that we don't have the same problems recurring?
And I said earlier, and I want to repeat that, when you have people that are working with you and they are not in the same page with you, it's a problem. We have come to a nation that almost everybody, not everybody, but many people has a price. And if you can meet the price, you get what you want from them. This becomes a problem when you have the issue of auditing and quality assurance, because you are sending human being, not machine, to go and do the audit. You are sending human beings to go and supervise and see the quality of the center, the quality of the machineries, the quality of the place. That person, when he goes there to look at what you ask him to do, what is his price? Can he be bought? If such a person can be bought with money, whatever result is given to you may not be correct. And you are going to take it as the best. But at the end of the day, you will see some problem coming out. You begin to wonder, but you gave me this report. That is the problem we have found ourselves.
There are persons who think, based on your analysis, JAMB should have, not taken the reports they were given by their quality assurance team, that these centers are certified okay to, good. I know somebody who, when he sends you on an errand, he won't tell you he's also sending someone else on the same errand. You go, do that job, he sends another person, he doesn't let the person in front know that, look, I'm sending somebody else. The job of the person is to see what you are doing without you even knowing. That is why I said, you think JAMB is thorough.
And this is supposed to be called audit review. Auditing is supposed to dot the I's, cross the T's.
Which he spoke about.
Let's ask ourselves a question. There are some private companies, or those we call blue chip companies. where you have highest paid money for staffs,
Yes.
you hardly see them messing up issues. Why?
They're well paid.
They were paid. And if you are paid and you are not ready to lose that pay, you will do what you should do. And anybody from anywhere cannot query what you did. This is the problem in Nigeria.
Welfare.
Yeah, that's the problem. How much are you paid? How many people can JAMB be able to send in a particular center? How many people can they send?
And pay them well.
And pay them well. It's not peculiar to JAMB. That is what is killing Nigerian system. If you see somebody working for instance, the Apex Bank, he doesn't take chances because he knows what he takes home every month and he don't want to play with it. Even at gunpoint, he will stand the truth, knowing that this is a matter of death and life. But take him to some other places, he will compromise and go because it doesn't mean anything.
So take or leave. It's not just the technical glitch that he talked about. The issue of compromise is also there.
It's there. It's there. Compromise is there.
But if we're talking about issue of welfare, for JAMB, they budgeted 1.1 billion naira. And in fact, so many cases, they have also had a spending of up to 27 billion naira. And we know that there's always some allocation for, okay, the 2024 expenditure was 1.1 billion naira for feeding and 850 million naira for fumigation. Then there has also been so many payments.
Fumigation, where are you fumigating?
Well, the officers.
So they don't experience some glitches of this
To make the place
nature.
comfortable.
Yes, and so there's provision of 1 meal per day for 2,300 staff.
Who are they paying that? The staffs they send out?
Well, nevertheless, now there has been, what I'm trying to say, there has been a location for certain payment. There has been a location for every aspect. Do we excuse this? Because there are even locations where people who are working do not have such allocations, do not receive such amount of salaries, but they keep to the tenets of the job. They keep to integrity and their principles. So do we excuse welfare for these actions?
I wouldn't say welfare is a problem, but I'm trying to analyze the general problem we have experienced in Nigeria generally. That there are some people, based on what they take home every month, you can never compromise them. Because what they're taking home every month, you cannot give them anything close to that will cause them to lose it. That's what I'm saying. A situation where you are supervised, you went for an inspection of a facility, and this facility is owned by somebody, and the person knows that he needs to take care of you so that you give reasonable report about his facility, and the person has done his best to keep it in order. You can, okay, you have done this, you have done this is not in order, this is not in order, promise me you will be able to do it. At the end of the day, something will exchange hand. Number one thing that you consider most of the time is not necessarily what the person gave to you, but sometimes your human conscience come to play. If I disqualify this man, what he will lose. But if I give him opportunity, he can come up better. Sometimes it's not necessarily by what he gave you.
Sentiment?
Sentiment can come in. That is the problem. Sentiment can come in. Not necessarily what he can give you, but the sentiment of allowing him to continue is a problem.
Okay. Now that these issues have been identified, predominance of the issues are the glitches from the network and all of that. If you watch that press conference there, retake, is that the best option, or outright cancellation of the results,
Or remark?
Or remark? Which one is the best option?
He should have.
And if you say retake, should it be for everybody or only the affected zones?
He should have cancelled the entire result. Let everybody rewrite.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Because there are
rewrite.
people who probably have marks that is not their mark.
Yeah. He should have cancelled the result. Let everybody rewrite the JAMB. That would have been the best option.
Why? Would that not be expensive?
It is what
Allocation.
It is what they cost themselves. And of course, when you look very well, JAMB has money. When you look at how much are they remitting to federal government, how much are they returning themselves, JAMB can fund themselves. And that is one of the way I gave kudos to Professor Oyedole for the way he has been able to bring JAMB to be at the level it is today. But the money is not the issue. The issue there is the services JAMB should render to Nigerians, not the money issue.
So you say cancel all the results.
That should have been the best
so
option.
Everybody, and not
right.
only the affected zone.
Yeah, because you never know some of the people that the zone that did not affect, one way or the other, something can spill over, you don't detect it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, there are persons also who are saying in other climes, this kind of errors are not permitted. Whether you apologize or not, it speaks of inefficiency. It reeks of the person not being able to do the job. Do you share in the sentiment of many people who think by this particular error, which is not the first, the JAMB registrar should resign?
Well, I don't buy that idea. I said it from the beginning. If not educare, we may not have been here today talking about it.
So that means they didn't even know
They
that.
didn't even know about it until somebody told them this is what should be looked into.
Shouldn't there be a way for them to detect these issues? Because these are computer-based tests. Shouldn't there be a way they can detect that even from Abuja?
It was when somebody raised the issue that they now went back to look into the system and find out that something was wrong. Initially, they didn't.
So if they didn't know, and someone made it possible for them to know, and people are saying this kind of error should not be condoned, resign.
Resigning, will it solve the problem? In our
maybe
culture,
maybe we'll have somebody who knows how to do these things better, who'll be more thorough, who will dot the I's and cross the T's and everything. Maybe we'll have the best person come handle the job.
In our climb, nobody resigned for doing something wrong. It doesn't happen in our climb, except if somebody will just say, let me be the first person that would do that.
Dr. Jude, how do you compensate that family of the young 19-year-old girl that took her life for scoring less? Dr. Jude, how do you compensate the many families who have expended so much and this particular thing is happening? Now, you spoke of children who may not exactly, not because they cannot answer the question, they've been demoralized by virtue of what has happened, and you ask them to recede and they don't do well. How do you compensate those kind of people?
Because when you talk about compensation, the result that will be coming out from the retake will equally bring its own challenges. You may discover some people that did a little better. They may not do better again for the this time around. So there are a lot of cumulative problems that is going on as far as this very 2025 is concerned. There is no way you can compensate all of them. It's not possible.
So if
the harm has been done,
the harm has been done, then the Ministry of Education, by extension the government, what lessons do you think they can get from this? What actions do you recommend they take going forward so that in 2026 we don't hear the same story?
I think I would want the Minister of Education and JAMB himself to take care of their quality assurance, reshuffle the personnel and inject new blood, and if possible, look at how they can involve private sector in the issue of quality assurance. That will help them to go a long way. That will help.
But should we
because the system has been compromised, and you can't allow it to continue that way. You have to think outside the box to see what you can do to stem the tide from happening again.
If we admit that the system has been compromised, then there should be mass purging, shouldn't there?
Or reshuffling.
Reshuffling. You're reshuffling, but the same people are still in the system. So you purge. Dr. Jude, you purge.
In the system we are running today, purging, we have to send some people to hell.
Yeah, but the truth is, Dr. Jude,
except when you can pin down that somebody has compromised.
Dr. Jude, if we continue to make excuses for avoidable mistakes, it will happen, and it will continue to happen. Some people have said, if heads don't roll, nothing will change.
Of course.
So
That is
I say
true.
purge.
The purge must start from the head.
That means the head has to leave,
Yeah.
which more
Yeah.
people are saying, look,
Yeah.
resign. Don't just apologize, resign.
Yeah, because what happened is not a branch issue. It comes from the headquarters.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Jennifer.
Yes, then the aspect I'm considering is on JAMB and its continuance. Because, of course, even prior to these incidents, there has also been calls for the removal scrapping
Scrapping of
the
JAMB.
UTME.
Let's just have direct exams with the universities.
Just like it is done in primary schools. Once you're done with the primary school, from the certificate, you just get to a secondary school. If you had passed that one, you get admission into secondary school. But when it comes to tertiary institutions, you have to write JAMB even after you have passed West African examinations.
JAMB. I said JAMB. Maybe because we're talking about JAMB. Jennifer, maybe there's a JJ thing. Let me be direct, Dr. Jude. And as we conclude this conversation, it is the way forward. Should we scrap JAMB? Should we reform JAMB? If we're reforming, what reforms do you want to see? If we scrap, what then should we be doing?
No, before you talk about scrapping JAMB, I want you to look into the admission process in the university. Are you aware that somebody can score 240 and he's given admission to study medicine in the university? Another person scored 280 from the same local government, from the same state, from the same catchment area, and the one of 280 is not given admission to study medicine, but the one of 240 is given admission to study. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
It has been happening.
Yes.
The same thing happened in some other core courses like law, pharmacy, and the rest of them. How do you solve that problem? JAMB supposed to be the medium to solve that problem. But even after solving the problem at the level of JAMB, at the level of intake into the university, the problem resurfaces. So if you scrap JAMB completely and allow the university to do it, the whole problem will continue.
So
So
that is the best way.
The best way is for Nigerian government to expand the education system. You expand it in such a way that the system will be looking for people to study under them. That's the only way to solve the problem. And it is very possible. UNIO, yes, they may have up to 50,000 students, but they have the possibility of having 500,000 students. There is a possibility of doing that. What stops government from expanding it? You expand the system. In the process of expanding it, you absorb those that have nothing to do. And at a point, somebody will not be killing themselves because of JAMB. You will be the one asking people to read and qualify to come and do this. That is how it is done in foreign nations, where you have university looking for people to come and study. It's not that they don't have population. They have enough.
It's a way of encouraging everyone to be educated.
That is the system. What does it cost the system to expand it to that level? By the time you pick each of the federal university and expand it by 20,000 students from what it used to be, you will see that there will be a reduced, yes, to take more people.
Okay, well, I really should appreciate you. Thank you so much, Dr. Jude Onwuhanze, for coming on the program, and that was really explicit. Thank you so much.
Thank you again,
Thank
Dr.
you
Jude.
very much.